To Corin Dan is standing by. He joins us live shortly. But first, let's start with Jack Tame, who's been in the thick of demonstrations in New York. Jack.
Kia ora, good evening from the New America. We're coming to you from the middle of Manhattan Island, where tonight Fifth Avenue is blocked by police officers and metal barriers. Here, hundreds of protesters have gathered, keeping in mind it's midnight local time, outside of Tiffany's, outside of Prada, and outside of Trump Tower, where the new president-elect of the United States is resting tonight. Yes, this country has a new president-elect, but tonight America is a country divided. On Fifth Avenue in New York City, the crowds rushed the barriers. At the foot of the grand skyscraper, where the new president keeps his penthouse.
Trump stands against everything the Americans stand for. He is not an American. I disown him. He is not one of us.
Thousands of people across the country swapped the ballot box for the megaphone. In Chicago, a city that voted almost exclusively for Hillary Clinton, the protests blocked the entrance to Trump Tower.
Fight back! Fight back! Fight back!
The Trump name became a magnet for shocked and unhappy voters. This is the image of the new America, Donald Trump's America, a divided America. It's particularly tense. There are dozens of police officers here who are faced off with protesters, and you really feel as though this could turn violent at any moment.
Minorities are being targeted. I'm scared for my family. Both of my parents are immigrants. I can't let this guy be president.
He brags about grabbing females' vaginas. Well, today, grabs back. Grabs back!
It wasn't just Democratic strongholds where the disillusioned became demonstrators. They turned out in red states too. This is Texas.
Not my president! Not my president!
And this is Tennessee. Leaders old and new have called for unity.
The peaceful transition of power is one of the hallmarks of our democracy.
I say it is time for us to come together.
Were you surprised by yesterday's result?
Absolutely not.
No? Why not?
Because America is systematically racist and has been this way for years. This is the system.
The banners show anger at many of the controversial campaign's most divisive issues: race, immigration and women's rights.
We may have lost the election, but this isn't the end.
Donald Trump boasted his supporters represented a movement. Now his detractors are on the move as well. And before the president-elect even sets foot in the Oval Office.
Jack, tell us more about the people turning out for these protests.
Overwhelmingly, Simon, our experience was that these were young voters. Largely they were millennial voters, voters who favoured Hillary Clinton in yesterday's election, but earlier on, during the primary campaign, favoured Bernie Sanders. They're very much anti-establishment protesters, and they're protesters who feel like a president has been elected on a message of hate. Hate against them, hate against their friends and family. And, you know, it's really interesting to compare the faces that have turned out protesting here in New York today and are continuing to protest around the country this evening with the people that won Donald Trump the presidency. He won it on the back of the white, blue-collar vote. And a couple of quick numbers for you this evening. Would you believe yesterday white women voted in favour of Donald Trump in greater numbers than they voted for Hillary Clinton yesterday? And remember the Hispanic vote? That was supposed to help Hillary Clinton. 30% of Hispanic voters in the United States favoured Donald Trump. And two final numbers for you this evening. Donald Trump actually didn't have a huge vote tally last night. He had 2 million fewer votes than the Republican nominee won 4 years ago. But Hillary Clinton had 7 million fewer votes than Barack Obama won in 2012. It was turnout that decided the election.
Thank you, Jack.
Well, the call from defeated Democrat leaders is for calm and unity. Hillary Clinton and President Barack Obama vowed to support a smooth transition of power after Donald Trump pledged to heal divisions among Americans. One News political editor, Corin Dan, is in New York. Corin.
Not my president! Yeah, well, America prides itself on its democracy, and that means the right to come out and protest, the right to free speech. Part of its that democracy, too, is the smooth transition of power between administrations, and we are seeing that underway now. It's understood that Donald Trump is already now receiving defence briefings that Barack Obama receives, so that transition is going smoothly.
After the fanfare, flourish and flap of the campaign,
It's time for Donald J. Trump to lead.
Now it's time for America to bind the wounds of division.
And in that spirit of unity, President Obama's meeting his successor at the White House tomorrow to discuss the handover of power.
We are now all rooting for his success in uniting and leading the country.
That meeting might be a little awkward after the nasty campaign.
And then there's Donald Trump. Don't boo, vote.
Hillary Clinton's also now calling for cool heads.
Donald Trump is going to be our president. We owe him an open mind and the chance to lead.
But she held out to the end.
This is not the outcome we wanted or we worked so hard for, and I'm sorry that we did not win.
Initially refusing to concede on election night. Finally, she picked up the phone.
I've just received a call from Secretary Clinton. She congratulated us, it's about us, on our victory.
Donald Trump responded graciously.
Hillary has worked very long and very hard over a long period of time, and we owe her a major debt of gratitude for her service.
The campaign resonated with people unhappy with the Washington political establishment.
Ours was not a campaign, but rather an incredible and great movement.
And he won convincingly.
The average Joe got behind his message in a major way. Praise the Lord.
He seems really passionate about making America great again and creating jobs, and he's a successful businessman.
I think that's what the country needs. Very happy for Donald. He's going to be my new president, so hey, congratulations, Mr. Trump.
Now the billionaire businessman wants to get down to business as president and assemble his top team.
For those who have chosen not to support me in the past, of which there were a few people, I'm reaching out to you for your guidance and your help.
Former New York Mayor Rudy Giuliani and former Speaker Newt Gingrich are in Trump's inner circle. And what roles might his children get? He'll have between now and his presidential inauguration on January the 20th to mull over all of that. Just think about how difficult that meeting is going to be for Barack Obama. Donald Trump wants to get rid of many of the policies that he has implemented, in particular the Obamacare, the health insurance policy. And I think the big question that people down here are grappling with, the fear and anxiety, is about what sort of president Donald Trump will be. Will it be the man we saw on the campaign with the nasty, divisive rhetoric? Will it be something different? Will he have to moderate it? He's got an incredibly difficult job ahead if he is going to bring these two sides together. If he does moderate his message, how does he then bring the support on from his supporters? It's going to be a very tricky ride.
Corin, thanks.
Now, despite Donald Trump's win, Hillary Clinton could still get more votes overall. If we look at the Electoral College results here, with a few states still undeclared, the map is dominated by those red states won by Trump, pretty much all the states in the middle of the country, with Clinton taking those traditional Democrat strongholds in blue, mainly here on the West Coast and over on the Northeast, areas with huge, dense populations. But the map doesn't really give a true picture of the popular vote. If we have a look at that, both have more than 59.5 million of the individual votes cast, Clinton holding a slim majority of 47.7%, with Trump nipping at her heels with 47.5%. Clinton's margin won't make a difference, though, because of the way America's Electoral College voting system works.
Well, the shock victories prompted a flurry of interest from Americans looking to leave the country. Online searches for New Zealand real estate are up, and Canada's immigration site crashed under the weight of demand. Kim Savage spoke to American expats.
To some Americans, New Zealand's now looking like the promised land.
At first I thought, drat. And then I kind of thought, oh, yeah, well, here we go.
Wellington yoga teacher Tyrone Russell's relatives are ready to pack up and go.
I thought, no, we need you there on the ground making things better. You know, you can't run away from a burning house, grab a bucket and put it out.
But Americans have been looking at their options. Demand caused Canada's immigration site to crash. And interest is high here too. Website realestate.co.nz reports traffic from the US yesterday was up 432% on the same day last year. Auckland, the most searched-for location. But will it translate to more arrivals here? Not necessarily if Brexit is anything to go by. Immigration New Zealand figures show no increase in visa applications after that vote.
If Hillary had won, I would know more people that wanted to get out of that country because of the oppression and the impoverishment that occurs.
Trump is actually not going to be a disaster for New Zealand. I think he's going to be very good for New Zealand because he's going to bring some sanity back to what a lot of Western countries need.
Right now, listen and learn is the advice of this former US journalist.
This is something very important that we need to pay attention to, not just in America.
And running here, not necessarily the answer.
If you feel like you're going to escape to New Zealand, to get away, to hide, think again, because humans live here, not hobbits.
Appealing as it might be. Kim Savage, One News.
And the man who took over from Hillary Clinton as US Secretary of State watched the final stages of the election here in New Zealand. John Kerry's trip to Antarctica was delayed by bad weather, so he took the opportunity to meet Foreign Minister Murray McCully. He had a thank you for New Zealand and some messages for home.
I want to offer my congratulations to President-elect Donald Trump and wish him well for the American people, for him, for his family. We also appreciate all that New Zealand has done to step up on issues of global concern, on South Sudan, on Iraq, Afghanistan, on TPP.
Mr. Kerry insisted the United States will continue to work with New Zealand on a number of partnerships.
Is a country built on immigration about to pull up the drawbridge? Securing this border was the very essence of Donald Trump's strategically brilliant but deeply divisive campaign.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists, and some, I assume, are good people.
We're gonna build the wall, folks. Don't worry about it. Who's gonna pay for the wall? Who?
Now it's the people here who must face the consequences. Hispanics on the border are troubled, unsettled, unsure about what comes next.
Mexico has a really good relationship with the United States with manufacturing, especially here in Tijuana in the border. You got Toyota, you got Samsung, you got Medtronic.
He says he wants to bring them all back.
He says he wants to bring them all back, but I don't see with what money he's going to do that.
A lot of people like tourism going that way is low, so now this might be even lower.
And what about the wall?
The wall, I'm scared of the wall. I don't know. I'm scared of the wall. I just hope they don't make us build it.
Barack Obama has deported more people than any president in history. His successor, though, has pledged to go much, much further, rounding up and expelling more than 11 million undocumented migrants. But having ridden a foaming white wave of resentment to power, can the president-elect back down now? This journalist thinks he can and he will.
What he's starting to do is soften his approach, and unfortunately he gets to say, well, I said those things during the campaign, but I didn't really mean them, or they're not really possible. And that's what the bad part about politics is. It allows people to say whatever they want during campaigns and then not have to fulfill those promises.
Not everyone here is so optimistic. On this dusty border, there is something in the air, and it is fear. For many voters here, disgust has turned to despair.
The election result was a crushing defeat for Hillary Clinton and the end of her dream of becoming the first female president in US history, after already serving as Secretary of State under President Obama. With more, the BBC's Nick Bryant.
She's been a First Lady, a Senator, a globe-trotting Secretary of State. But what made Hillary Clinton think she was uniquely qualified to be president, her decades of Washington experience, actually proved to be a weakness. So rather than shattering that famed glass ceiling, she was portrayed as the face of America's broken politics. To understand why Hillary Clinton lost, you need to leave behind her political home in New York and travel to the skeletal old plants of the Rust Belt, where the post-industrial landscape provided a seedbed in the selection of economic discontent. Here in Pennsylvania, a state she unexpectedly lost, people weren't queuing to vote, they were waiting for food handouts. And in what was once a Democratic stronghold, they've lost faith with politics as usual.
We've had enough of what's going on for the last 20 years. I think we need to change.
Why is it that Donald Trump has such appeal in these communities?
He's a businessman.
But Hillary Clinton is a career politician. Even as a child, she ran for president of the Student Council. She was a star campus activist in the 1960s. But the more political she became, the less people seemed to trust her.
You know, I'm not sitting here as some little woman standing by my man like Tammy Wynette.
So when it emerged that she'd used a private email server during her years as Secretary of State, it crystallized long-standing feelings of mistrust and hatred.